netcast@2020 n capital. तुम अरे n कैपिटल है अभी. amrish@netcastservice.com और पासवर्ड netcast@2020 n कैपिटल.
रेंजचा प्रॉब्लेम आला. थोडंसं रेंजचा इश्यू आहे. हा सर उत्तम आहे सर. हा इन्फॉर्मेशन सर्व्हिस लागली तर years of experience in total. Highest price. हाँ हेलो रितेश जी. हाँ ओके. हाँ ठीक है ओके ओके. दिसते सगळं त्यांना म्हणायला लागले ते 5 मिनिटांनी लाईव्ह जाऊ म्हणतात. ओके. सर अजून एक कॉल करतो. म्हणजे त्यांना इकडे फोन करू नको म्हणून सांगतोय सर. एबीएम वगैरे नाही तिकडे फोन तरी डिस्कनेक्ट होतो.
हेलो हाँ सर वी आर लाइव हेलो
Yeah,
सर वी आर लाइव वी कैन स्टार्ट यस सर
Asha, how are you?
हॅलो सर. हा सर मी फोन केलो. Hello, Ritesh ji.
yes sir
We'll start after 5 minutes or start?
so you can start we are live we can start right now also but I think we should wait for 5 minutes 7 बजे start करते हैं we can start 7
Okay,
7
just
बजे
give me green signal, then I will start.
yeah sir okay
रितेश जी मैं लॉग इन किया हूँ.
Data pack successful आहे सर. काही इश्यू नाही. Your internet connection is unstable यायला लागेल. कनेक्ट करायचं. थोडासा इकडे खिडकीचे असतात म्हणजे मी तिकडे मोबाईल तिकडे ठेवतो. इकडून तिथे खिडकी ठेवले का म्हणजे रेंज ते घेईल. हा चालेल. बरोबर. थोडी
Hello, sir. Should we start?
Hello. Yes,
Yeah,
we can
should I?
start. Okay.
Okay. So
Yeah.
I welcome Dr. Pritesh Ashok Pawar, consultant interventional cardiologist, Yashodhara Super Speciality from Solapur. Sir, I welcome you on behalf of Curious Mankind. And sir, we are really looking forward to this talk on Rivaroxaban. Sir, over to you. Thank you so much, sir, for accepting our invitation and giving this talk. Thank you. Thank you. Sir, over to you.
Good evening
Yeah.
to one and all. Yeah. Good evening to one and all. Thank you for that kind introduction. Myself, Dr. Pritesh Pawar, consultant interventional cardiologist from Yashodhara Super Speciality Hospital, Solapur. Warm greetings to all of you from city of Hutatmas, Solapur. Today, we'll be discussing an important topic, Rivaroxaban, the novel compass for simplifying therapy and symbolizing compliance. So, what are the objectives of our talk today? What are the objectives? We have to just understand the NOACs journey, understand NOACs, which NOACs can be used for wide spectrum of indication, and Rivaroxaban as a drug of choice in this NOAC across the wide spectrum of indications. So timeline for development of anticoagulation. NOACs are novel oral anticoagulants. So you can see in 1939, first heparin was discovered. In 1940, diacumarol, 1950, warfarin. And then in the last decade, you can see dabigatran 2008, Rivaroxaban 2008, 2011 apixaban, 2015 edoxaban, and from 2015 onward, the antidotes for these NOACs were discovered. So changing paradigm in anticoagulation. Oral anticoagulants now where we are using, predominantly we are using in prevention and treatment of deep venous thrombosis, pulmonary embolism, and in prevention of arterial thromboembolism in patient with non-valvular atrial fibrillation. So why we are looking forward for use of NOACs? Why the guidelines say now that you should use NOAC if you have an opportunity instead of using warfarin, the age-old oral anticoagulant which we were using. So what were the challenges which were associated with VK administration, that is warfarin administration? As all of us know, it has a narrow therapeutic range. So INR has to be maintained between 2 and 3. Constant monitoring and dose adjustments causing inconveniences and additional cost. Slow onset and offset of action. Then inhibits the natural anticoagulant protein C and protein S, causing temporary imbalance in the favor of procoagulant factors. Multiple food and drug interaction leading to dietary restriction and reduced quality of life. More chances of intracranial bleed and registers due to genetic polymorphism, VCOR-C1 and CYP2C9 genes. So these were the challenges which we were facing when we were using VK antagonist, that is warfarin. So as you know, US FDA has approved dabigatran in 2010, Rivaroxaban 2011, apixaban in 2012, edoxaban in 2015. So of these NOACs, dabigatran is a direct thrombin inhibitor, and all the rest, Rivaroxaban, apixaban, and edoxaban, all are factor 10A inhibitors. So factor 10A is a common link between extrinsic and intrinsic coagulation factor, and it prevents the formation of thrombin. So uses of NOACs in wide spectrum of indication. So you can see there is a whole lot of indications, list of indication, and in this whole lot of list, we can see Rivaroxaban has got the widest spectrum of indication using in chronic coronary syndromes, coronary artery disease, post-MI patient, chronic stable peripheral arterial disease, atrial fibrillation plus PCI and stenting, atrial fibrillation with renal impairment, and DVT and PE patients, both for prevention and treatment. So in whole this list, you can see Rivaroxaban can be used in all these indications. Here in this busy slide, I would just like to highlight two things. First is you just have a look at the renal clearance, metabolism and elimination. So only 33% of the Rivaroxaban is excreted through kidneys. And second important is the compliance requirement, that is the drug regimen required is once daily. So here it scores over other NOACs, and it scores over warfarin, that here it has only 1/3 renal excretion, 33% renal excretion, and once a daily dose. So here Rivaroxaban scores over other NOACs and the traditional age-old VK antagonist. So rationally for using anticoagulants for cardiovascular protection. Now we will switch gears and we will look about the vascular protection, how rivaroxaban helps in the vascular protection. So the natural history of chronic coronary syndromes, dynamic process. This was the diagram in the ESC guideline last year published. There they have shown, you see, the green line is after revascularization. A patient has got ACS, he has been revascularized, and the risk factors have been properly controlled, and the patient is on appropriate medications. Then there is a lower risk of the patient getting again the coronary events. And white and the red lines you can see higher risk with insufficiently controlled risk factors, suboptimal lifestyle modification and or medical therapy, large area at risk of myocardial ischemia. So this is a dynamic process. So incidence of MACE according to the history of ischemic event, this was the rich registry. Here you can see by Dr. Deepak Bhatt. You can see this line, stable atherosclerosis without ischemic event at baseline. 4-year incidence of MACE in patients with a prior ischemic event is 18.3%. So if a patient has an ischemic event earlier, despite guideline recommended therapy, patients with previous ischemic events are at a higher risk of recurrence, even if they are on proper medications, proper diet, proper lifestyle modification. Then how we can decrease this MACE in these patients with the prior ischemic events? So this is a holistic approach. This is a holistic approach of vascular protection. So you can see control of risk factors to limit atherosclerosis progression and stabilizing existing plaques, prevention of blood clot formation over any ruptured or eroded atherosclerotic plaque. And you can see we'll have all the 3 prongs model: lifestyle changes, that is smoking cessation, regular exercise, healthy weight, weight management, psychosocial support, medical therapies, lipid control giving statins, hypertension control giving AC inhibitors, ARBs, diabetic control giving insulin and anti-glycemic drug, and anti-thrombotic therapy, anti-platelet therapies. So these are what we are giving. But as you all know, thrombus is just not a collection of platelet. There is some additional thing also. So how we can take care of this additional thing? It is found by both platelet and fibrin. So why add factor 10A inhibitors to the current DAPT? Thrombin is the most potent stimulant of platelets. So aspirin and thienopyridines do not block activation of platelets by thrombin. So this is the most important thing where we are focusing. Blocking 10A inhibits thrombin formation from both intrinsic and extrinsic coagulation pathways. Platelet activation diminishes over time after an ACS event, and this thrombin generation, in contrast, is persistently elevated following ACS, which is reduced by rivaroxaban. So here we are trying to act on thrombin in addition to the platelets, and we are trying to decrease the recurrence of ischemic events in a patient who had already ischemic event. So here you can see the vascular protective strategy for secondary prevention. Now COMPASS in context. So now we are calling it as a dual pathway inhibition. Dual pathway. One pathway is the platelet and another pathway is the thrombin. So we want to attack on these both pathways so that we can decrease the overall ischemic events in the patients. So dual pathway inhibition with rivaroxaban and aspirin should be seen as a part of overall vascular protective strategy. So you can see, in addition to lipid lowering, BP lowering, AC inhibitors, what COMPASS study had, these patients were already on these drugs, which are the standard line of treatment. And after adding rivaroxaban 2.5 milligram BD to aspirin, it had 26% reduction in MACE, 44% reduction in stroke, 14% reduction in MI, and 23% reduction in death. So, and this trial, mind you, was stopped earlier by the FDA. So you just have to think that even if our patient is on these standard drugs, just by adding rivaroxaban 2.5 milligram BD, as they did in the COMPASS, we can reduce MACE, stroke, MI, and death considerably. Therapy that are significantly reduce MACE in stable CAD and PAD patients. So these are the 4 trials which we are comparing in contrast to the COMPASS: CAPRI, KARISMA, PEGASUS, TRAR secondary, P, TIMI 50, and COMPASS. So you can see the previous 4 trials, there is no mortality benefit. We are always looking, if we are using any new therapy, we are looking whether this therapy is giving us a mortality benefit. So in COMPASS, you can see there was reduction in all cause mortality. So COMPASS was stopped earlier. They told you should not deny the patients who are only on aspirin. They should be on rivaroxaban 2.5 milligram vascular dose, so that they also get the benefit of reduction in mortality. So here you can see COMPASS tested, as we just discussed, that is dual pathway inhibition. So here it was a big study where they had taken 27,000 patients and they had divided into 3 groups: rivaroxaban 2.5 vascular dose BD plus aspirin, plain aspirin, and rivaroxaban 5 milligram BID. Key inclusion criteria, just have you see these, what were the inclusion criteria. So coronary artery disease, that is prior MI, multivessel coronary artery disease or multivessel revascularization, plus more than one of the following, that is elderly patients, elderly male female more than 65 years, and if the age is less than 65, we have to have atherosclerosis in 2 or more than 2 vascular beds, or you have more than 2 additional risk factors: current smoker, diabetes mellitus, renal dysfunction, EGFR less than 60, heart failure, non-lacunar or ischemic stroke, and more than 1 month ago. And key exclusion were severe heart failure less than 30% and EGFR less than 50. So patient had multiple risk factor, and just patients with acute coronary artery disease or deemed to be at very high cardiovascular risk were excluded because of need of death. So these were the patient population which they studied in COMPASS trial. So you can see what they found. So just we can highlight this, that is made in the both form, efficacy as well as safety. So efficacy, we are looking at major adverse cardiac event, and safety we are looking in form of major bleeding. So you can see MACE, MI, stroke, and CV death all were significantly reduced in the group which received rivaroxaban 2.5 milligram BID with aspirin. And major bleeding, we were more worried about fatal bleeding and non-fatal intracranial bleed. So there it was non-significant. Bleeding, yes, definitely the number of bleeds will increase because you are adding an extra drug with aspirin, but we are more concerned about fatal bleeding and we are more concerned about intracranial bleeding. So these two bleedings were not increased. So absolute benefit of rivaroxaban vascular dose 2.5 mg BID plus aspirin is highest in high risk group patients. So what we have seen, more than 2 vascular beds involved atherosclerosis, patient on diabetes, patient renal failure, patient of current smoker. These patients are at very high risk, and if you add a vascular dose of rivaroxaban to aspirin in this group, they will have maximum benefit. So here you can see, this is a very important slide. If you see, if you add rivaroxaban to overall CAD-PAD population, and then if the same patient has diabetes, the CV risk goes on increasing. If the same patient has renal impairment, CV risk again goes on increasing. Heart failure again increases. CAD plus PAD again increases. So these are the groups: diabetes, renal impairment, heart failure, patient of CAD, PAD. This patient will benefit maximum by the use of rivaroxaban vascular dose. You can here also see mortality benefit in high risk population. As the number of risk factor goes on increasing, you can see the difference between the red and blue bar. So you can see more benefit for the patients, who are having more risk factors. So high risk patients should receive what they are saying in 2019 guidelines for the management of chronic coronary syndrome. So here this slide is important. Addition of a second antithrombotic drug to aspirin for long-term secondary prevention should be considered in patients with high risk of ischemic events and without high bleeding risk. So high ischemic risk defined as diffuse multivessel coronary artery disease with at least one of the following. Means diffuse means you have 2 or 3 vessel coronary artery disease with one of the following: diabetes mellitus requiring medication, recurrent MI, peripheral arterial disease, and CKD EGFR of 15 to 59. Then what the guidelines say, this was a class 2A recommendation. So if you can add a second antithrombotic drug to aspirin for long-term secondary prevention with moderately increased risk of ischemic events and without high bleeding risk. So this is class 2B. So moderate ischemic risk defined as at least one of the following: multivessel or diffuse coronary artery disease, diabetes mellitus requiring medication, recurrent MI, peripheral arterial disease, heart failure, and chronic kidney disease with EGFR 15 to 59. So these were the recent changes in the guideline which was made in 2019 after the COMPASS trial. So COMPASS in India's context, this was the study review article which was published in IHJ by SAIT GS Medical College Cardiology Department and Pharmacological Department. There what they showed, a critical analysis of COMPASS trial showed that younger age group appeared to derive greater benefit from rivaroxaban plus aspirin combination as seen with number needed to treat metric as compared to older age group. So you can see here that the decision to prescribe rivaroxaban in combination with aspirin in India to patients aged less than 65 years can be considered as an option, as the disease is seen a decade earlier in this country. So as all of us know that ischemic heart disease is seen 1 decade earlier as compared to the European and US population. So what they say that this rivaroxaban can be prescribed in patients less than 65 years of age in Indian context. So COMPASS regimen is the first long-term antithrombotic since aspirin to reduce mortality. As we had discussed in the last slide, you can see all the trials. The rivaroxaban plus aspirin reduced the mortality. So this was one trial which showed mortality benefit after a long time. Atherothrombosis is a polyvascular disease. You can see there is mix-up of population. 25% of the patients with coronary artery disease had disease in other vascular bed, that is peripheral or carotid artery disease. This was seen in the REACH registry. Peripheral arterial disease patient had 4-fold increase in risk of fatal MI. Peripheral arterial disease has 2 to 3-fold increase in risk of stroke. So it is a polyvascular disease. Patients usually have vascular disease in other beds also, coronary bed, peripheral bed, and carotid bed. So current treatment strategy for peripheral arterial disease is what we are doing. We are giving exercise training, pharmacological treatment in the form of cilostazol, endovascular intervention in the form of stent placement, surgery in the form of revascularization, and CV risk reduction, standard treatments, statin, ACE inhibitor, diabetic therapy, smoking therapy, cessation, and antiplatelet therapy in the form of ASA and clopidogrel. So patients with chronic PAD remains at a higher risk of limb events also despite guideline recommended therapy. So what we want to do, we want to decrease it. So how we can decrease it? You can see PAD patients vulnerable after revascularization. So here you have done revascularization, but again you can see after revascularization also it is same as the coronary artery disease patient profile. Even after doing revascularization of peripheral arterial disease, outcome in patient with acute limb ischemia is bad and they are vulnerable. So we have to decrease this risk. So how we can decrease this risk? High risk but fewer proven treatment options which are available to us. So one of the treatment option is now COMPASS presented a new option. It has a peripheral arterial disease arm also. So we are now acting on dual pathway, platelet activation as well as coagulation, that is thrombin. So dual pathway inhibition, as you see, dual pathway inhibition with rivaroxaban significantly reduced MACE by 28% and MALE. This was a new term which they introduced, that is major adverse limb events, by 46% versus aspirin. So you can see in this, you can see the black line which shows rivaroxaban plus aspirin. So 31% relative risk reduction in MACE or MALE on the in the peripheral arterial disease patient who were on rivaroxaban vascular dose plus aspirin, and significantly reduced major amputation by 70%. Again, this was a very important message that rivaroxaban vascular dose significantly reduced major amputation. So you can see the new guideline recommendation for this peripheral arterial disease patients are the combined therapy of aspirin and rivaroxaban should be considered in PAD patient without a high risk of bleeding or other contraindication. So they have given class 2A recommendation. Then again, you can see global vascular guidelines, what they are saying, that consider load of aspirin and rivaroxaban 2.5 milligram PID to reduce adverse cardiovascular events and lower extremity ischemic events in patient with chronic lower limb thrombotic ischemic events, and ESC guideline in patients with diabetes and chronic symptomatic lead without high bleeding risk, a combination of low dose rivaroxaban and aspirin. So in all guidelines and recommendation is 2A recommendation, So peripheral arterial disease patient, high risk patients with risk factors, a patient, peripheral arterial disease patient who has undergone revascularization should be considered on rivaroxaban plus aspirin if not at high risk of bleeding. So again, you can see rivaroxaban way forward in 2021 recently introduced long-term secondary prevention strategies. So you can see now the landmark trials for SGLT2 inhibitor, PCSK9 inhibitor, triglyceride lowering, anti-inflammatory. So here you can see rivaroxaban decrease in MACE 24%, 18% decrease in death, 42% decrease in stroke, 14% decrease in MI. So rivaroxaban, this COMPASS trial was a very important landmark study in comparison with the landmark studies done in last 2 years. So Voyager PAD study was done in peripheral artery disease. Here you can see what it showed, that it significantly reduced the risk of composite primary endpoint by 50%. What was the composite primary endpoint? Acute limb ischemia, major amputation for vascular cause, MI, ischemia, ischemic stroke, or CV death. So Voyager PAD is the only randomized trial showing significant CV and limb benefit after peripheral vascularization. So you can see here all the 4 trials, Mirror, Camper, Casper, and Dutch Boa, as comparison to Voyager, where it shows Voyager showed a superior reduction by 15% and mortality benefit, significant CV and limb benefit after peripheral revascularization. So this patient should be given benefit of vascular dose of rivaroxaban. From acute intervention to long-term secondary prevention, again you can see if your patient acute phase you have started patient and you are continuing the same management in the chronic phase, then what we are seeing less MACE, less MALE, less amputation, less unplanned revascularization, and less vascular hospitalization. This is what we want in our patients of peripheral vascular disease. Once we have done the revascularization, once they have undergone surgery, next event should be reduced significantly, and that is reduced significantly by starting patient on this vascular dose of rivaroxaban. Then you can see when to start dual pathway inhibition. As per the Voyager study, post intervention after hemostasis within 10 days, and as per the COMPASS at the vascular clinic, newly diagnosed new or worsening atherosclerosis, and we discussed the very high risk population, that is high MACE risk patient, that is concomitant CAD, type 2 diabetes, other risk factor, that is EGFR 15 to 60 ml per minute, heart failure with ejection fraction more than 30%, current smokers, and high male risk, that is prior revascularization, prior amputation, chronic limb ischemia, and smokers. So you should start the patients rivaroxaban on this group of patients. Multiple opportunity to enhance. So these are the high risk patients which will benefit most with the treatment of rivaroxaban vascular dose plus aspirin. So these are our patients which we see in OPD. 52-year-old male patient with ambulatory with ABPA less than 0.9, 75-year-old patient with multiple risk factor and CAD, 62-year-old patient of CAD with worsening symptoms, then 73-year-old patient with post-revascularization or amputation, 57-year-old patient of intermittent claudication, 64-year-old patient of coronary artery disease with diabetes. So all the risk factors, all the very high risk population which we see in our OPD patients can be given the opportunity of vascular dose. Now here you can see, so this is the slide which is showing atrial fibrillation, which is a very important factor for causing ischemic stroke. So there are many patients which will have acute coronary syndrome, and there will be combination of acute coronary syndrome with AFib patient. Then how to tackle these patients? So here we can see that as per the guidelines, non-valvular AFib, CHAD-SWAS score is recommended for stroke risk prediction in patients with AFib. So just you have to remember that if your patient have atrial fibrillation, you have to exclude 2 things: mechanical heart valve and moderate to severe mitral stenosis. If you have excluded these 2 things, then you can use NOAC in any type of atrial fibrillation patient. Only in mechanical heart valve and moderate to severe mitral stenosis, warfarin or vitamin K antagonist are recommended. So here NOACs are not used. All other conditions where you will get AFib, you can use NOAC. It is a class 1A indication to use NOAC. Just calculate the score, CHAD-SWAS score of more than 2 in male and more than 3 in female. Use NOAC as a class 1A indication. When oral anticoagulation is initiated in patient with AFib who is eligible for NOAC, NOAC is recommended in preference to vitamin K antagonist. This is the guideline set. 2020 guideline, what is saying? if the patient is eligible for both warfarin, acidocumarol or NOAC, use NOAC. Then antiplatelet monotherapy is not recommended for stroke prevention in AFib patient regardless of stroke risk. Many of our colleagues, what they do, if elderly patients are there with atrial fibrillation, to prevent bleeding, they just put patient on aspirin or single antiplatelet. Antiplatelet is not recommended for stroke prevention. So here you can see, if you have done a primary PCI, you have done a PCI in a patient who had got atrial fibrillation, then what is the default strategy? Just for 1 week give triple therapy. Triple therapy means dual antiplatelet plus NOAC, and that should be given only for a week. And if you are using NOAC plus TAPT, always use clopidogrel. Don't use ticagrelor or prasugrel. And after that, up to 1 year, use double therapy, that is NOAC plus clopidogrel. And after 1 year, only NOAC has to be used. So this is the default strategy which we have to use. NOAC dosing in patients with, so you can see now, standard dose is rivaroxaban 20 mg OD, apixaban 5 mg BID, and dabigatran 150 mg BID. These are the standard dose. Low dose, where we are using rivaroxaban, low dose is 15 mg we are using in patient with creatinine clearance 15 to 49. Apixaban, you are using low dose, that is half dose 2.5 BID if patient has 2 of these 3 criteria: age more than 80 years, body weight less than 60, and serum creat more than 1.5. And dabigatran, age more than 80, concomitant verapamil use, moderate renal impairment, gastritis, esophagitis, increased risk of bleeding. So AF patients in Rocket AF had a very much sicker patient, and as compared to in other trials, you can see the CHADVAS score in patients in Rocket AF. 3 to 6 CHADVAS were seen, score was in 86% of the population, as compared to the RELY and Aristotle Cap trial. So they were more sicker patients in the Rocket AF trial of rivaroxaban as compared to other studies. So strong correlation with HAS-BID score, high risk of stroke and high risk of bleed. Dabigatran and apixaban were evaluated across the spectrum of stroke risk. Rivaroxaban were evaluated in patient at higher stroke risk. So this you have to remember. So CHADVAS is what congestive heart failure, hypertension, age more than 75, diabetes, prior stroke or TI. AF patient studied in Rocket AF had a higher risk of stroke than patients in other phase 3 trials with NOACs. So here, what was the message? That the message from this study was very clear, that rivaroxaban once daily dose compared with warfarin was equally efficacious, that is non-inferior in prevention of stroke and embolism, and it was superior in patients in comparison to bleeding as compared to VK antagonists. So message was very clear that rivaroxaban has proven efficacy and safety as compared to VK. So net clinical benefit of rivaroxaban. So if you are giving this in elderly patient, then also you can see the net clinical benefit of rivaroxaban compared with warfarin older patient is also higher as compared to just putting the patient on VK antagonist. So you can see as the age increases, the AFib atrial fibrillation increases, and as the age increases, the CKD also goes on increasing. So every third patient with AF has CKD. So as per the EHRA guidelines 2018, use of NOAC according to the renal function, you can see 80% of dabigatran is excreted through renal route. So 30 ml is the cutoff. Below 30, don't use dabigatran, creatinine clearance. For rivaroxaban, it is 15. So if it is below 50 ml per minute, you use 15 milligram. Above 50, you use 20 milligram. Similarly, there are reductions in doses for apixaban and edoxaban. Just 2 important things which we have to remember: NOACs are not recommended if creatinine clearance is less than 15 ml per minute or patient is on hemodialysis. So again, you can see NOAC in phase 3 clinical trial. Renal clearance, as I had told you, in rivaroxaban is 33%, and exclusion criteria were creatinine clearance less than 30 ml. Number of patients studied 15 milligram. The dose was studied in this group. Then similar the dose adjustment, we will just focus on rivaroxaban here. Less than 15 ml EGFR not recommended. 15 to 49, 15 milligram. More than 50, 20 milligram. And this rivaroxaban is the only NOAC to be tested prospectively for specific renal dose, rivaroxaban 15 milligram OD. Now one question comes to our mind, that if our patient is having creatinine clearance less than 50, and if we are using 15 milligram of rivaroxaban, whether it is beneficial in prevention of stroke. So here you can see head-to-head trial between rivaroxaban 15 milligram versus warfarin, and you can see it's all on the left side of this midline, that rivaroxaban 15 milligram, even edaxaban 30, and dabigatran 110 or apixaban 2.5 all favors NOAC. So even in moderate renal impairment, you should use NOAC in preference to warfarin. NOAC has showed up beneficial effects in patient. Meta-analysis of phase 3 trial for stroke or prevention in AFib demonstrated that 19% reduction in stroke events, 52% reduction in intracranial bleed, 14% reduction in major bleed, and 25% increase in GI bleed. And GI bleed, more commonly gastritis and all, is caused more commonly with dabigatran as compared to other NOACs. So the relative efficacy and spectrum of NOAC was considered across a wide spectrum of AF patients. Recommendation. So what were the changes in the recommendation? So what changes we have seen in the recommendation? For stroke prevention, as I told, exclude patient with mechanical heart valve and moderate to severe MS. All our patients, class 1A recommendation to use NOAC. For stroke risk assessment, always do CHADVAS score. OAC is recommended for stroke prevention in AF patient with CHADVAS score more than 2 in men or more than 3 in women. So OAC should be considered for stroke prevention in AFib patients. Again, the same 2A recommendation. Then in patients with VKA with low time in INR therapeutic range, recommend options are switching to NOAC, but ensuring good adherence and persistent with therapy. Again, this is class 1A recommendation. Efforts to improve TTR is class 2A recommendation. Antiplatelet therapy, as we have discussed, giving just antiplatelet for prevention of stroke is not recommended. It is class 3 recommendation. Then protecting challenging VTE patient, venous thromboembolism. So we have seen vascular protection, we have seen stroke protection. Now just we'll see few slides on venous protection, pulmonary embolism, DVT, patient post TKR, post THR. Who do you consider as a patient who are at risk for VT? Fragile patients, active cancer patient, renal impairment patient, young patient are at the minimum risk. So what the guidelines say, the American College of Chest Physician, for VT and no cancer, as long-term anticoagulant therapy, we suggest NOACs over VKA therapy. So for VT patients, American College of Chest Physician, what they are saying, NOACs over VKA. And ISTH, what they are saying, for VT and cancer, first option with low risk of bleeding and no drug-drug reaction interaction with current systemic therapy, they are specifically saying rivaroxaban or edoxaban. So your patient has venous thromboembolism, prevention treatment, NOACs. If patient have venous thromboembolism and cancer, again rivaroxaban or edoxaban as per the guidelines. Rivaroxaban has consistent efficacy across most challenging population. You can see the blue bar is rivaroxaban and the gray bar is low molecular weight heparin or VKA. You can see in fragile patient, cancer patient, young age group patient, and renally impaired patient, everywhere rivaroxaban scores over low molecular weight heparin or VKA. Again, the same slides we can see here. So rivaroxaban score or LMWH or VKA. So effective treatment of frail PE or DVT significantly reduced incidence of major bleeding. So more frail patient, you can see in non-frail patient also this blue bar is rivaroxaban. The bleeding was less, and even in frail patient, you see the bleeding was much less, and the p-value is significant. So rivaroxaban, there is a favorism in the in rivaroxaban as compared to favorism of enoxaparin or VKA in these patients, in this population also. So treatment of DVT, you can see rivaroxaban, it's very simple. If you are using it for treatment of DVT or in treatment of pulmonary embolism, first 20 days 15 milligram BID, and after 20 days 20 milligram OD for next 6 months. So this is the most simple regime which we can adopt in patients of DVT or pulmonary embolism. Initial treatment with single drug approach is different between different drugs. Apixaban pill burden will be more. Here also you can use 10 milligram BID, but first 7 days you have to use 4 tablets daily. And if patient has already received low molecular weight heparin, continue intensified dosing for a total of 7 or 21 days. So final slide, I would like to conclude. Take home message is rivaroxaban has a low renal clearance as compared to dabigatran. It has only 33% renal clearance. So it is much safer to use this molecule in our patients with chronic kidney disease stage 3, stage 4. Rivaroxaban is the only NOAC to be tested prospectively for specific renal dose, that is 15 milligram OD. Rivaroxaban have a single drug approach in DVT treatment, as we have seen, and Rivaroxaban is the only NOAC to be approved for secondary prevention of ACS, chronic coronary artery disease, and chronic peripheral artery disease. Thank you to one and all for your patient listening.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much for the insightful talk. Sir, will we be taking questions also?
Yes, yes, definitely.
Okay, sir. So we have got 3 or 4 questions. I'll just ask them on behalf of the audience one by one. So,
Yes, yes.
sir, the first question that we have is regarding the usage in COVID of rivaroxaban. So, what the question is basically that how to use and which dose to use of rivaroxaban specifically in a COVID patient or
Yeah.
post-COVID patient.
Yes, yes. As you know, COVID is thromboinflammation. There is thromboinflammation. It is infection leading to thrombosis and inflammation. So there is both thrombosis as well as inflammation. So we have to take part. We have to have a dual prong approach. For inflammation, as you see, patients are receiving steroids. Patient in viremia phase, they are receiving remdesivir. And for thrombus protection in the hospital stay, they are using patients. We are giving low molecular weight heparin, but the patient which are very high risk patient in whom they were admitted in the ICU for long days, long duration, patient who had raised D dimer level more than 2 times of the upper limit, this patient should be discharged on rivaroxaban 10 milligram OD dose for 4 to 6 weeks. So what we are practicing in our hospital, we are giving low molecular weight heparin when the patient is in hospitalized indoor, and once the patient is getting discharged, and the patient who have been stayed in the hospital for a long time, ICU stay patient and cancer patients, patient who have risk factors, and patient whom had very high D dimer levels, this has to be discharged on rivaroxaban 10 milligram OD dose for 4 to 6 weeks. Hello.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Sir, second question. Hello. Yes, sir. Sir, second question is actually a mixture of 2 questions. So I'll just tell them. Sir, actually, we had 2 questions regarding the usage in CAD, that is chronic coronary syndrome. So, sir, one question is that how to use it and which kind of patients to use. And secondly, the second question is that do you only consider the COMPASS trial population for 2.5 mg? So, how do we use it in CAD? I would just summarize the question like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, how do you use rivaroxaban in CAD?
Yes, rivaroxaban in CAD, you can see we have seen 2 important slides while our discussion, that this has to be used in patients who are at very high risk, means patient who have double or triple vessel disease, coronary artery disease involving double or triple vessel, patient who in addition has history of stroke, patient in addition had history of claudication or amputation, patient of heart failure, and patient with CKD stage 3, stage 4, that is EGFR 15 to 59. So any patient who had received chronic coronary artery disease, patient who had received who is on treatment and who have risk factors of which I have mentioned, just that patient we should add rivaroxaban 2.5 milligram BID vascular dose, so that they get maximum benefit. More the risk factors, more sick the patient, means more risk factors like heart failure, CKD, diabetes, and multi-vessel disease. So these are the 4 population: heart failure, diabetes, multi-vessel disease, and patient with chronic kidney disease. So these are the patient population in which we have to put patient on rivaroxaban, so that they get the maximum benefit of out of it. And the inclusion criteria should be similar to what were in the COMPASS trial: ejection fraction more than 30%, and as I told, more vascular bed involvement, more benefit of rivaroxaban.
Right. Thank you so much, sir. We have got one more question regarding the BID dosing. Sir, there is this question that if you use a DAPT, dual antiplatelet therapy, like prasugrel, clopidogrel, or ticagrelor, and if you use aspirin plus rivaroxaban, so which one will be better, and where you would encounter a more severe bleeding risk? So the
See,
question is actually two, that which one would you prefer, DAPT or DATT, and bleeding risk, which one is more?
yeah. See, DAPT is recommended as per the current guidelines if the patient has undergone revascularization immediately. If the in the post immediate revascularization, patient should be on DAPT. So, and if you are using NOAC, then it is clear that don't use ticagrelor or prasugrel, because they are more potent antiplatelet and they will cause more bleeding. So patient on aspirin, patient on clopidogrel, and patient on rivaroxaban 2.5 milligram BD can be given and this was the study which was done in 2010, Atlas TIMI 51 study. So in this study they had given in addition to aspirin, clopidogrel, 2.5 milligram rivaroxaban, and they had shown benefit in as compared to patient who were only on DAP. So when you are considering addition of rivaroxaban to DAP, don't use ticagrelor or prasugrel. Patient will have higher chances of bleeding. And if we are using NOAC, rivaroxaban vascular dose, in addition to DAP, it's always clopidogrel safe to be used, and as per the guideline, only P2Y12 inhibitor to be used with NOAC and aspirin is clopidogrel. So to reduce the chances of bleeding and to get to give patient maximum benefit, aspirin, clopidogrel, and rivaroxaban is the safer combination.
Thank you so much, sir. I think that really nicely summed up, a lot of topics, regarding rivaroxaban. I think, sir, that's it from, for questions. I think we have taken most of the queries that are there. So we thank you so much for taking out time from your busy schedule. We know that you're really busy, and thank you so much, sir, for giving us the time and talking about, rivaroxaban. And we hope that, the audience also enjoyed the session, especially me, listening to all the nitty-gritties of the rivaroxaban usage. Thank you so much,
Yes.
sir, for your time. Thank you from Curious Mankind. Thank you,
Yeah,
sir.
thank you, Curious Mankind, for giving me opportunity to share my thoughts on this very important topic. Thank you to one and all. Thanks. So we'll conclude the
Thank you.
session.
Amrish ji, we can close the session.
Yeah.
Thank you, Amrish ji. Thank you. Okay.
Thank you.